Mr. President, our Chief of Staff, our protocol acknowledge. I remember many years ago, I was a young preacher, and I used to attend the Church of Pentecost. When I got saved and born again on the bed of affliction, I was led to the Church of Pentecost to fellowship. At that time, there was no charismatic church in the country. And on Saturdays, I would call for a prayer and a revival meeting, and I'll bring students from all over the city to the airport residential area. I remember one time I went to church, and a young prophet who is still alive, I'm still in touch with him, he stood up. Then he spoke in some strange language. I wasn't baptized in the Holy Ghost then, and I said, wow, what language is that? And they said, tongues. And I said, I want some. Then he said, Miyo nyame munkanchire ekutu echampon say midom hine Ghana yemi mind mitunu. I said, wow, because I've come from a very interesting background, and I said, wow, does the church have that kind of a power? And at that time, Mr. Benjamin was then the regional minister of Greater Accra, and he was a member of our fellowship that we had begun at that time at the airport residential area. So I called him, and I said, you need to talk to the old man because it looks like he's in trouble. And he said, you know, these kind of messages are tough to deliver it to me. And I said, you have to tell him. If you can't, you make the opportunity for me, I'll tell him. However, he couldn't communicate it because he had some very powerful people around him who would not let that happen. So I left it alone. It's okay. And in a week, there was a palace coup, and it was removed. And I said, wow, this true prophetic is something. And then came to my understanding Daniel 4:17, when the Bible said that all the living may know that the Most High rules in the affairs of men, that this is the decree of the watchers and of the holy ones, the angels and the intercessors over countries and communities and families. That the Most High rules in the affairs of men and give the kingdoms of men to whomsoever he chooses. Mr. President, I want to thank you for your example, for being such an example to all of us and to so many, that when you were in opposition, you did engage the church community. And all of these men and women of God that are gathered here to stand in prayer for you, with you, to intercede, that God may give you the upper hand in this election. And he did. And as I've always said, that you're a man that remembers and that you don't forget. And calling this gathering today to register gratitude to God and to say thank you for all those who sought God, prayed and interceded on your behalf for such overwhelming victory. I want to thank you for not forgetting, because this is one of the weaknesses of men, and especially people who come into success, into power, into greatness, that most time there's a tendency of forgetting from whence you have come from. And one of the leaders of Africa that have so inspired me, irrespective of what your personal view may be of him, you're entitled to, is President Madiba Mandela. Mandela said, as I stand at this door to my freedom, I realize that if I don't leave behind my bitterness, the offenses and the injustice done to me by apartheid for these 27 years in prison, I will walk through the door to freedom and still be in prison. And therefore, I must leave behind my hurt, my pain and offenses. Mr. President, you are that kind of an example because I've watched you when you were in power before, even in the days when you were in parliament. I've watched your attitude. I've seen people hurt, offend, and betray you over the years. We've talked about some of these individuals. Recently, I had a meeting you attended, and there was this individual that had so offended and hurt you when you were in opposition, and when we were talking, he passed by, and you stopped, and you called him, and you hugged him. I looked at you and I said, what kind of a man is this? And after, he said to me, do you realize that he spotted me and hugged me? What kind of a power is that? And I said, it's a power of humility. Walking in humility. It's a power of recognizing one's humanity.